I think today is probably the first time I am genuinely pissed off at a performance. I think the Brighton game at the start of the season was disappointing. The Brentford game was more shell-shocking than anything else, and I kind of expected what ended up happening in the Man City game. But this one today, this has really annoyed me because that was it was just a disgraceful performance from every single player on the pitch. I think it's one of those occasions where you can genuinely say there was not a single good performance from a single Manchester United player. And for those of you who have been calling for Bruno Fernandes to be dropped for whatever reasons, then be careful what you wish for, because this is what happens when he doesn't play. He covers more ground than any other player when he plays. He's covered more distance than any other Manchester United player in the Premier League this season. And it was absolutely noticeable that he wasn't playing because there was just no extra tracking from the midfield. We know Eriksen doesn't do a lot of tracking anyway. And Casemiro can't cover four players at once. So it was down to Van der Beek to pitch in and do his part like Bruno Fernandes does. And Van der Beek wasn't anywhere. And that was noticeable on the first goal, and it was noticeable on the third goal because they just had so much space all game, Aston Villa. It was obvious that inevitably they were going to creep into those areas and pick up goals. And we needed so much more effort from our midfield, and we just didn't get that today at all. And I've probably titled the video something along the lines of title chances gone, and we'll get to that. But I know I'm going to put on the thumbnail exposed because that's what we were today. Tactically, individually, and just all round as a team, we were exposed today. And the main culprit in terms of exposed is once again for me going to be De Gea. And I will always go on about De Gea, and we spoke about it the other day, how he's been playing really well recently and making lots of saves. But we'll put it on the caveat again that he was making lots of saves with his right hand. And look where the goals all went today. Shot to his bottom left-hand side. Tried to save it with his leg rather than going with his left hand. Didn't get there. Free kick went in the bottom left-hand corner. Tried to get there with his left hand, and it just went straight through his fingers because, as we know, doesn't have a left hand. And yeah, he can't do anything about the third, but it's still in his left-hand corner. But that was a great finish from Ramsey, and we've already touched on that. It's because Van der Beek wasn't tracking back. So yeah, just absolutely exposed on all accounts. It was a poor performance from everyone involved. It has to be said, obviously, you can't just say, oh, we played bad, that's why we lost. Villa had to put in a good performance themselves, and they absolutely did. So I can't complain in that regard. I thought Aston Villa were fantastic. I thought Unai Emery's tactics were very different to what Steven Gerrard's been doing. They played a 4-4-2, something you don't see very often nowadays, but 4-4-2, very effective against 4-2-3-1 formations usually. They just had runners everywhere, and we allowed them to do it. Like I was saying, the tracking just wasn't there. Casemiro was trying to pick up Ramsey, Buendia and Bailey all at the same time. The defence wasn't really stepping in to help out, and as we said, Van der Beek wasn't coming back to help out, and Eriksen doesn't really get involved anyway. So we just got overran in midfield, and we got picked off time and time again. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Our goal was a fluke. Luke Shaw has tried to hit a shot, and it's going about 10 yards wide until it deflects in off Ramsey. That's the only reason we scored. Otherwise, it would have been 3-0. It could have been comfortably more. And I think the only other thing to talk about is probably the attackers, because they just didn't do anything either. Garnacho was probably the only one who offered any slight threat. He was causing Cash some problems, but not many. I thought Cash handled him much better than we've seen in the 2 Europa League games that Garnacho's had, other than that one chance that produced a very good save from Martinez. But then going the other way, going the way he's supposed to be effective, Van der Beek did absolutely nothing. I'd have liked to have seen someone else play. I would have liked to have seen Van der Beek come off at half-time, put Eriksen further forward and put Fred on. I don't know, I go on about Fred, but the one thing Fred is good at is tracking players and winning the ball back, and that's exactly what I've just said we were missing. So it baffled me to no end that in the second half we didn't see Fred come on to try and shore up that midfield a little bit more, especially since we got it back to 2-1. Make sure we can stay in it at 2-1, don't go 3-1 down, and then build the pressure and slowly get back into the game. But no, Ten Hag stuck with Van der Beek, and yeah, wasn't involved in the 3-1 goal, and then wasn't really involved in any sort of attacking threat for the remainder of the game until he went off. Rashford is just not a right winger. We spoke about this a few times last season. He just looks completely lost out there. I would even rather have him up front than I would on the right wing. And I know I've complained about Rashford being up front on times this season, but I saw it enough times last season. You put Rashford on the right-hand side, he's absolutely, completely useless because he wants to run at people and he wants to get inside, but when he's playing on the right-hand side, he cuts into on his left foot and he doesn't have a left foot, so he just ends up passing it back to Dalot or back to Casemiro. So Rashford was completely ineffective until Garnacho went off, which I wouldn't have done because, like I said, he was the only one doing anything. So I would have moved Garnacho up front, taken Ronaldo off, and we'll get to him, and I'd have put Rashford over onto the left. But no, we didn't do that. Ten Hag didn't do that, and he's another person that's been exposed today because his tactics when going behind were kind of exposed. He didn't really know what to do. Made very like-for-like changes that didn't change the game in any way, shape or form. And then, yeah, finally we do have to talk about Ronaldo because that was probably the worst performance we've seen from him. Even in games where he's not done well, he's still been creating chances and having chances that he's missing. He's only had one chance in that entire game, and it's a goal that you would expect Cristiano Ronaldo to score every single time. Completely unmarked, header in the middle of the goal. All he's got to do is pick a corner, and he's headed it straight at Martinez. And that is not good enough for any striker, let alone a striker of his calibre. So, as much as it pains me to say it, I think we're going to see the end of Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United in January. We've got one game left. I wouldn't start him. I certainly wouldn't start him in the League Cup because we've not even got to that yet either. But I certainly wouldn't start him in the League Cup, especially now that Martial's fit. And I wouldn't be starting him next weekend against Fulham, which is going to be a very tough game as well. So, yeah, I think Ronaldo is done. They gave him the captain's armband today, and instead of trying to lead the team, he was just doing the usual, throwing himself to the floor and then complaining. So that's not leadership. That's not captain material. And it was a rather disgraceful performance from a player that I expect so much better of. And yeah, what else? Because there are so many things. Dalot is now suspended for the Fulham game after picking up a 5th yellow card. So either Wan-Bissaka's going to have to find some fitness, or we're going to end up playing probably Lindelof at right back and Maguire at centre-back, which isn't going to be the end of the world. I think Maguire is probably a good option to have against Mitrovic, the way he's been playing, if Mitrovic is fit. I think Martinez was lucky to stay on the pitch. He quite literally goes for a triple elbow on, I think it was Bailey, and connected with two of them, so I don't quite know how VAR didn't send him off because it looked very deliberate, and a deliberate elbow is violent conduct and should be a red card, so he shouldn't have been on the pitch. And yeah, I don't really think there's anyone left to cover. I suppose substitutes. Malacia came on for sure. Didn't make a difference. Alanga came on, looked threatening for 10 seconds until Martinez knocked him out. Then didn't do anything for the rest of the game. And I'll be honest, I don't know if Martial even touched the ball after he came on. He was just sort of running around in the same space that Donny was. But Donny was just running around doing nothing either. So very, very, very frustrating. A missed opportunity given how some of the results have gone this weekend. I really thought that this was an opportunity to put pressure on the top four, keep ourselves in touch with Man City and Arsenal as well. But I would say now, given the fact that I think it's now 10 points behind with no games in hand to Arsenal and 8 points to Man City, potentially more, I'll have to double check, but it's around that. They're not going to drop that many points for the rest of the season. Arsenal might, Man City won't. So as far as I'm concerned, that's any potential title chance is gone. And we've now put massive pressure on ourselves to get top four again because Newcastle are playing phenomenally. Newcastle just don't want the World Cup to happen right now. They're playing so well. We're about to have the Tottenham-Liverpool game to see how Tottenham do in terms of their top four spot. And obviously Chelsea lost to Arsenal. So this was such a good opportunity for us to get into the top four. And we've wasted it, and now there's massive pressure on us because we have to travel to Fulham next week, who is not going to be an easy game. Fulham's record at home this season has been so good. They're a good team playing very good football. We're unlucky not to get a point at Man City yesterday. So, worrying times. And yeah, finally we have to play Villa again on Thursday night in the EFL Cup. So, off the back of a 3-1 defeat, it'll be interesting to see what both respective managers do. Will Unai Emery play the same team and look to beat us at Old Trafford? Will Ten Hag make several changes? I expect he will. I think he has to. I think there were a lot of players that were tired from the Europa League team. I was very surprised to see the same starting lineup just 3 days after the previous game. I think there were definitely some tired legs. I know that's not the best excuse to have, but still, changes must be made for the next game, and then further changes potentially for the league game against Fulham. Don't really have anything else to say. Just, yeah, very, very frustrated with that. Wasted opportunity, poor performance, disgraceful from certain players. But we have the right opponent to turn it around against on Thursday night. And hopefully we do that. Hopefully we can have a good cup run, because I think we need to have a good cup run. We've not won a trophy for 6 seasons now, so I'd like to see us have a good cup run. And obviously we are through to the next round of the Europa League, and we need to start our EFL campaign with a win. So change is needed, and an opportunity to put right today's performance against Aston Villa, and then one final Premier League game against Fulham before we head off to the World Cup. Hopefully it'll be a quick turnaround, and I'll see you then. Thank you very much for watching.